Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy KRYPTONIAN SAIYAN here, bringing you guys another review for Black Clover. And with Black Clover Chapter 344 done in the books, this time Tabata's shown us that when he goes into the lab to cook, we're once again going to be fed with another set of plot twists that make our heads, both as a fandom, explode until we pause and think back to all the foreshadowing that we got for all this and realize that everything's been set up at earlier points in the story. We got a lot going on right here with Lucius continuing to look every bit like Black Clover's version of the Antichrist, with Lucius pulling off the requisite miracle act, and this time he was shown healing Morris, who went from having no limbs to having limbs all again all of a sudden. We got the true reason for why the Paladins have been sent to the land of the rising sun. We got the Ryuzen seemingly about to do battle against the Paladins, and we got Asta training with the two strongest Ryuzen members in a last-ditch effort to power up Asta before the final battle with Lucius. There's a lot going on here in this chapter, but it wasn't so much going on that you felt like you couldn't keep up, which is a good thing. That means that there's balance here. So jumping right into the review itself, the chapter opens up with a few bombshells to grab our attention and keep us anticipating what's about to happen next. We see Lucius speaking to Morris, who is in a wheelchair, bandaged up, and he only has one working limb and is missing all his other limbs. We then get a brilliantly drawn panel overflowing with symbolism where we have a giant cross in the background, and behind it we have three giant orbs that have people inside of them, and you have Lucius sitting on his throne that has two crosses on both sides of him, and at the very top of his throne there's a third cross that's going up towards the air, another biblical nod to Jesus. And with the three crosses you have the other nods there, but Lucius, being the Antichrist of this story, has three people above him, and we learn that those three people in each of those spheres are none other than the Dark Triad themselves, each of whom we saw get defeated during the Spade Kingdom battle in the last arc of the story. Lucius then proceeds to regenerate the missing limbs and even restores Morris's sight. What we see here is that Lucius isn't just limited to soul magic as we saw, but on top of that, on top of him manipulating one's soul and altering their memories, he can also restore and heal damage done to the body like it's nothing. Lucius is continuing to be built up like a godlike figure, and it's very fitting since he is going to be the final villain of this story. But it's also worth noting that Tabata is walking a very tight line right here. If he goes a bit too far, it goes from Lucius being an Antichrist false prophet like figure to being a walking generic shonen ass pull for a final villain. But to be fair, Tabata has cooked this entire arc, so I'm not going to doubt this man when it comes to a perfect landing for the series, because he's shown us don't jump the gun yet. So I'm going to give him an opportunity to just keep building on this, because so far he ain't dropped the ball. We then see three bodies that are floating above Lucius, and those are the bodies of the Dark Triad. However, instead of restoring his siblings like he did with Morris, they're in the same state that we saw before in the last arc, which brings up a few questions. Is this a situation where we're going to be seeing limitations to what Lucius can do, which means that all their injuries and the state that they're in is beyond what Lucius can reverse? Is it also possible he's found a way to use their magic for his plan, something that was teased earlier, which we then have to ask the question, is this actually the case? Because the spade symbol is missing from each of their grimoires. The bodies of the Dark Triad are shown here for a reason, and I think there's more to why we're seeing the Dark Triad than what we saw in this chapter. I don't think they're going to be Paladins, but I think there's another reason beyond Lucius just yanking their magic. This is going to come back in a good way, which is going to be good writing. Just as Asta's making preparations for the final battle, so is Lucius, but it looks like there are other plot twists that are coming. Another thing of interesting note here is the fact that we have not seen the Supreme Devil who Lucius has been working with before, which means he's either gone back to hell or he's possibly been assigned to one of Lucius's Paladins, which that opens up the door for Devil Union mode, which is going to be insane. Another thing of note here is that we got foreshadowing for what Lucius has done with Morris when he heals him, because he told Xenon in a flashback, we will rebuild them with unifying magic. And when he fought against Asta, he said, using my siblings' magic, I will rebuild humanity, which has me thinking that he's going to just yank the powers of his siblings, which makes Lucius even more overpowered. Soul magic, gravity magic, bone magic, blood magic being combined, which very well might be how he's restoring the limbs and the blood that you see going to the limbs when he created the new legs and arms of Morris. Moving Moving on, we then see Sister Lily appear before Lucius, and as Lucius begins explaining his commands to her, we see the land of the rising sun in the background as Lucius is speaking. We then see Sister Lily and the two paladins that are flying with her through one of the towns, and Sister Lily appears shocked by what she's seen, or rather by what she doesn't see, but the empty town is the least of their concern. Instead, we see them flying towards those shrine gates that are just past the beach, and the paladins end up destroying it with their power. It's then that Tabata blesses us with a very brilliantly drawn double-page spread where we see the famed multi-headed dragon that we were told about when Ryuya was speaking to Asta a few chapters ago. We finally see it summoned, and we get the confirmation that this was the true reason why the paladins are here in the rising sun. Now, it's here that we have to keep something in mind here. So Astaroth in demonology had a dragon, so this makes complete sense why the rising sun has a dragon, and based off what we're told, the dragon could open a gateway to hell, which leads to the obvious connection that in Black Clover, this dragon is clearly Astaroth's dragon, which explains why Lucius is after it, which means things are about to get even more out of hand in the future than they are right now and have ever been in Black Clover so far. But the next thing that we see is that the Paladins, their plans aren't going to go as smoothly as they think they might be, because we see Ichika and 4 other ryuzen members looking on, which means we're likely going to see how well the ryuzen do against the Paladins and potentially see for ourselves how overpowered Astaroth's dragon truly is. Meanwhile, the chapter ends off with Asta being trained by 2 more ryuzen who are even stronger than Ichika, and we can tell that Asta is getting his speed run through the training, which makes this a little sad for me personally, because I was enjoying seeing more of the training, but based off of the reactions I've seen in a large part of the fandom, it kind of seems like I might have been the one that's in the minority who was enjoying this, and it looks like Tabata might have been more so on you guys' side. So more people are going to be happy with seeing the return of the Paladins in the story and the action we're about to get served up. And narratively, it makes sense and it can actually work. If they fall in battle with the Paladins or they end up stalemating them, this just gives us a clear benchmark for where Asta is going to be going as a character now, because he's going to inevitably surpass the Paladins. Overall, this is a really solid chapter. We got new reveals that were needed to bring in the excitement factor for the story, and we got juicy material at the end of the chapter to really push things forward even further, because we now have anticipation with the Paladins versus the Ryuzen, and we have Asta rushing to complete his training, as well as we as readers getting a reminder that even when we don't see Lucius, he's well written enough as an antagonist that his presence is still felt in the story, which is going to make his defeat that much more enjoyable when it happens, because we've seen the road for what has needed to been taken in order to get us there. So my chapter question to you guys is, what do you guys think Lucius' true plans are now that we've seen more of the pieces fall into play? While you think that over, click here to watch these other Black Clover videos you see on the screen right now.